All right. Welcome, everyone, to this week's LinkedIn Live. My name is Mitch Benson, the Franchise Development Manager, and I'm getting pumped up over here. But before we introduce, let's cut the music. How about that? And introduce everyone to co-founder and CEO of A Place at Home, the brand leader, Mr. Dustin Distefano. How you doing, Dustin?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Hey, man, we're here another week. It's wonderful. And I'm excited to kind of take the tour of everybody as guest hosts, I guess, on our weekly LinkedIn Lives here. Had a chance to speak with Anna. Just this last week was with Jared. And now D Money making his 2023 debut on our LinkedIn Lives. How are you feeling about it?
Doing good. Feeling great. It's what, the 24th? 24 days in, you guys finally decided to involve me. I'm impressed.
How about that? Yeah. We figured, all right, it's about his turn. We gotta make sure he's doing something here. No, but it's been a lot of fun, Dustin. What we've kind of been up to so far is really elevating some great information that has been posted on A Place at Home's franchise website. Right, aplaceathomefranchise.com has a very active blog section. Okay, this is where we're working to bring up scenarios, situation, industry trends about the home care industry, and kind of make our website a place to go read that kind of stuff. And we wanted to double down on that and be able to talk about it in LinkedIn Live formats. And so, Dustin, I'm really excited for our conversation today because it's really about kind of the visionary level of home care. Right. And that's as your brand leader name suggests, exactly where you're at. And we're excited to have that conversation. Dustin, are you with me? Oh, well, here he is. I say one thing about him not being involved, and he's just like, forget it. I don't want to do this anymore. You know? Well, hey, I'm glad to have you back. But so as we were saying here, I'm excited to get your take on this very exciting topic we get to discuss today, which is the 4 home care industry trends in the post-pandemic world. Right? For me, in my experience with the company, it's only been post-pandemic, right? But for you, it's been before, it's been after, and I'm excited to see kind of how you feel about where we're at now in the home care space. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Well, in that case, when I first came into A Place at Home, we were in June 2020. We were hot in the middle of COVID, and it was very much the pandemic world. And what I noticed from you, from Jared, from everybody on the team, is essentially our first big trend that we saw starting from the pandemic and now increasing outside of the pandemic, which is an overall growth in demand for home care. Right? Can you talk a little bit about that, having been on one side of the pandemic with a home care demand and now on the other side of the pandemic? Have you seen the demand for home care services grow?
Yes, and actually in a lot of different areas. So I always share this story when I talk to new prospects looking at A Place at Home and even current candidates that prior to the pandemic, the conversation between us and how we market A Place at Home and the grind is completely different than what it is today. Prior to, all the questions were about how do you get clients? How do you get clients? How do you get clients? Right? Pandemic hit. The industry shifted itself. People wanted to stay at home as opposed to going into those communities and facilities. And people are starting to go back into those communities, and most of them are very lovely communities, and it's a great option for a lot of seniors. But the majority of seniors want to stay at home. I mean, that's just statistics. I don't have numbers in front of me. Last I checked, it was like 80% or 70, 80% of individuals surveyed wanted to stay at home. So that's always been a thing. So you have the population growing. And I believe one of your points on here is going to be the caregiver shortage. I can't wait to talk about that either. Yeah. But during that time, the labor pool took an adjustment down, and increasing in wages went up. It was just a big shift all across the board during the pandemic. Meanwhile, the demand went like this for in-home care. So my point is after the pandemic, it's the conversation shifted from how do I find clients? The market is saturated. There's so many home care agencies. There are a lot of home care agencies, but the demand supports those agencies, right? And also during the pandemic, it cleared out a lot of those smaller mom and pop operations, or those individuals who may have been looking at selling their business or getting out of home care. COVID was like the last straw that broke the camel's back. So all these agencies either went for sale or got out of business. So then it limited those resources at the same time. So you had all these different things happening during the pandemic, and here we are today, where we're having record-breaking new owners. You know, Jessica in New Jersey, Gary in Massachusetts, Dina in Pennsylvania, Adam and I'm naming the owners that were post-pandemic, and you might have to help me because you've signed their franchise agreements. Adam and Tristan Johnson is having an unbelievable year. Britt Robertson is killing it. Rachel Womack in New Mexico. Like this whole wave of franchise owners and business owners that came into this industry, their growth patterns are way different than the ones prior. But the ones prior, their growth patterns are way up here because they rode that wave. They got through it. We didn't shut any locations down, and boom, right? Yeah. And so that's where you saw the big jump. People wanted to stay at home. People were scared post-pandemic. It's starting to get a lot better in terms of availability, which I'm going to go to, so I'm not going to jump the gun. But I hope that answers that first one.
You know, it certainly does. And I love how that changes from the conversation changes as a reaction to the kind of the number one trend that we're seeing in the post-pandemic world, which is, of course, demand going through the roof, is that, you know, that didn't necessarily was the case before. Now it's very much like that. And to me, I think that's the tide that raises all ships. That's really what we're here to do, because that demand is overwhelming at the time. Right, and continues to be. So we get these chances, and all the franchise owners that you mentioned, they had very different landscapes when it came to operating a business in COVID. Right, I would say, you know, Rachel in Albuquerque, New Mexico, had some of the stringent lockdowns in the state of New Mexico. Was pretty tight at the time that she was exploring entrepreneurship and diving into it. The Texas was another story. You know, it's just different landscapes of how that all goes. And these folks really stuck to it, and, you know, found that demand was what's helping them propel their business, and found ways to really just serve. Right. And so that kind of like brings me into a little bit specifics about the kind of demand that's been increasing, right? One of our trends that we share, you know, in our blog is actually our third trend, but I think it goes with this a little bit more. And that was essentially a rise in specifically companion care, right? How do you think loneliness like played into the pandemic, right? Of course, we're doing activities of daily living, but did you see an uptick in some of those companion shifts too in the early months of the pandemic?
I don't know about the early months. I would say like when the pandemic really hit the fan, like March of 2020 and April of 2020 and May and June. I think June was kind of a turning point where people like we went like this during that 3-month boom like that, and then we just went like that right after June. Yeah. You know, and I don't have specific facts in front of me on companionship, but loneliness was a huge isolation, not only in the homes, right? That's what you always worry about, mom or great grandma sitting at home and not having anybody to talk to all day. That's what companionship's really for, is mental stimulation and helping with errands and all that kind of stuff. I think that really did grow a lot because seniors were scared to go out of their house to go to the grocery store. Right? They needed somebody else. Now you have all this technology coming in with Shipt and Instacart. But you know, that's technology is still scary to those individuals. Right. In that time frame. I mean, my grandmother in particularly, like, she doesn't know what an app is or a Shipt is, or she doesn't know what we got her a tablet for the first time in 3 years, and she discovered Facebook, and gosh almighty, you would have thought it was back then that she learned it. Yeah. Right? Like, so technology is just not caught up to that generation. I think in like 20, 30 years, maybe 10 to 30 years from now, you're going to start seeing a new wave of technology you're seeing technology being integrated now, but the openness to it, the willing to accept it is a few years away, I think. Now going back to your point in terms of companionship, for sure. I mean, it all plays into that role of growth. I mean, here's some stats, Ready for these
Yeah.
stats? You know, I'm the
Ooh,
stats guy.
here it is.
After COVID, the year of 2020 versus 2021, we
Yeah.
grew by like 48%. Last
Mm.
year, 2022 over 2021, we grew by 49%. Right. And we only added a few locations last year, none of which could open because they were all in locations that had stringent licensure, which I got to give some shout outs to Danny and Aubrey and that licensing team to get through that. That also had a major impact. COVID had a major impact on states' ability to survey. Their resources got dwindled down. It was very hard to get into this market at
Yeah.
that point in time, and we did it.
Yeah.
Shout out to Charlotte down in Louisiana. That was a bitch of a state, pardon my language, but we got through it, girlfriend. And here we are. So my point is, we didn't open a new location last year, maybe a few on the front end, but not on the back end. We still grew by 49%. And this year, already into this first month, it's at 49%. I'm looking at it right now. So we continue to almost grow by half of what we did last year.
Yeah.
And that's not with adding a lot of resources into it. Does that make sense?
Right. That's huge. It's very, very exciting. You know what I mean? And it really does. It paints that picture of a growing demand for home care, for, you know, entrepreneurs to get into the game, right, and be able to provide the solution that the industry is calling for, right? So I just love that. I love that growth trend can be seen in so many different ways, right? We know that people are wanting more of this. The pandemic had such a big impact on it. Entrepreneurs are seeing more of it, and they're like, man, this is something we got to get into, right? But with all of that excitement and all of that growth and the opportunity to impact lives and really help a senior do what they deserve to do, which is age how they choose to age, right? You know, there have come some challenges, right? And this is maybe the second big trend we saw in home care, which is a labor shortage, right? Man, it's what we talk about a lot as business owners, as those who connect employees with opportunities. It's something that we felt very acutely, right up front, especially in early days of the pandemic when we were on the front lines. We were essential. Our caregiving staff is in the home of our vulnerable population throughout the pandemic. Like they're literally right in front of folks, right? So that ended up being impacted. And we have seen something of a challenge, not just in home care, but in every business across the country, in the world for that matter, engaged in some sort of labor shortage issues, right? From your perspective, right, steering the ship of a brand with your co-founder Jared Evanich and kind of getting us through this time here, what did you have to? How did you see the labor shortage play into a place at home's growth? Right.
I mean, we could have grown by a lot more. For sure. Had we had a magic hat, you know, you've heard me say it. You know, how do we find caregivers? Magic hat and a wand, abracadabra, and they just pop out. And that's obviously not realistic. So we definitely could have grown by more. But how I like to explain this in a sheer economics standpoint. All right. Rates 2-3 years ago, before the pandemic, were what, $25, $24 an hour. And now today's market, we're at an average starting right now this year. Last year we ended at $29 an hour average across the United States, and today we're at 30. This week our average at billable hour is 30. That's $6 more. So like I said in the beginning, those that caught up, right, those that adapted to the labor shortage and know what the increase in demand has an effect on supply, right? Pure economics, supply and demand. When demand increases significantly and supply is short, what happens? Look at eggs, right?
Right.
Look at anything right now. And if those agencies couldn't keep up, they went out of business. We were very on top of how to keep up and increase our wages. I would put us in the 75th percentile of wages. I think we're in the 75th percentile according us versus Home Care Pulse's national data collection. We're in the 75th percentile in pay rate and pay. That's only one factor though, right?
Yeah.
Pay is a factor. You got to keep up and be competitive in pay. But then you also have to build the culture that people want to work for you, right? And it all starts with your recruiting. when you get them on the phone, you need to let them feel your culture. It's almost like a sales pitch on the phone for a caregiver to come and work for you. It's almost like you're their agent, right? You remember Jerry Maguire, Show Me the Money? I mean, I was Tom Cruise on that phone to caregivers. I had clients. I knew the clients I wanted them to work with. I would sell the client backgrounds, not using their name, obviously. I would get them excited about the part of town they're going in. And that's this kind of stuff we teach. We kind of, instead of just hiring bodies, we had something to give them. And then when they come on, it's show them your culture, take care of them, all the fine little details, know their birthdays, right? Know what they like. I think one of our agencies, was it Rick and Chris in Omaha, had like a About You page. When we took it nationally to everybody after we found out about this. That's the beauty of being at a franchise. You can take what one person does and make it national if it does well. This was very cool. They had an About You, and they asked about, you know, things like their background, their favorite snacks. And what they did was they used that sheet to do little detail things to retain their caregivers. If their favorite snack was a bag of Doritos, they would show up to their clients and they would leave them a note with a bag of Doritos. Right? What that Doritos cost them? $2.
Yeah.
Right. In today's day and age, $4. Right. But that $4 showed that caregiver they know about them personally, and they're not just an employee to them. And that caregiver probably just made them X amount of billable hours. So did it have an impact? Yes. But if you couldn't keep up with the demand, you're hurting. But you also got a little bit of choosy. You know, you got to create that culture to bring in those caregivers. And today, Mitch, to throw out some numbers for you, you know, I like doing that. There's 650 active caregivers across the United States. And last year, my friend, hold on. I didn't have this one up. I should know it off the top of my head, but I don't. Fill the void, Mitch. Do a little dance.
Yeah, you know, to me, it really shows that there is opportunity here, not to disregard or look away from the challenge that it is. Right, Natalie Watts, one of the leaders in our brand, is here in the comments section on LinkedIn, and she says, "Hey, yeah, absolutely. The labor shortage from the pandemic continues to impact business today," and I absolutely agree with that. It's not gone away. And I'm watching news reports. Not only is it on the front lines, we're looking at, you know, I would say more tech workers who have not really felt any sort of realignment in the working space. That shoe has dropped recently. So to me, the labor shortage continues to be something we think about. And to Natalie Watts, you know, credit and praise to her, right? Leaders in our brand so far, just as Sherry has mentioned, really know that culture is what magnetizes your business, and what really draws a great employee who is ready to do what they're really good at, and that's make someone feel comfortable in their home and be there to support them and let a senior age the way that they chose to, which is independently and in their own home. Right, that person is out there and they're looking for that kind of agency who's willing to go that extra mile. Right, listen big and remember things about them. Use tools like an About You page that can really get in front of them and say, you are not just a number to us. You are a real person who has a life of your own, who's helping use your skill to let another person live out their life as well. And that's just so huge here. And I think that has become not just the dollars and cents divider between successful and non-successful. This is that intangible piece that we're seeing across so many place-at-home franchise owners that's putting them ahead and keeping up with an otherwise challenging time for other businesses, right? So my hat's off to all of them for all the hard work that they do and employing literal hundreds of caregivers across the system, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. And I got my number, 505 in January of 2022, 505 active caregivers.
Yeah.
And today, 650 active caregivers. So we've grown by about 145 caregivers. And applications, we had about over 5,000 applications. And going to applications too, it's how you recruit people. It's not just how you recruit people, it's how you also market your recruiting. Right? So many agencies jump right on Indeed. And I did it too, right? You got to understand, once a caregiver puts their name on that Indeed, they're getting blown up by rehabs, home health, private duty home care, skilled nursing, doctor's offices. Restaurants probably are in there now trying to recruit them because they're hurting too. So, you got to get a little crafty. Put money into your own website. My advice here, put money into your own website, right? Try to turn your website into your number one recruiting source. Don't use Indeed, right? MyCNAjobs.com is a great platform, and I really like them. And I know, Kyle was my rep for years, and I used to work the heck out of my CNA jobs. If you're going to invest in a platform like that, you have to work it, right? You can post a job on there and people will apply, but they're applying to other jobs on there too that are on that platform. Where you're going to make your money is in that marketplace, and you have to have a system. I'm not going to share that. If people want to learn that, they got to be a franchise owner to do that. But you have to be able to work that platform, and it can have a good return for you. But again, it's still another platform where multiple agencies are on it. And you can get convoluted if you're not doing good detailed messages out to your caregivers, and you're responding to those just like they're a client lead, right? So many people get a client lead and they're on it within 5 minutes. Well, they get a caregiver app and they're like, I'll get to it later. They're gone by the time you get to it later, right? They just got 30 phone calls. So marketing your caregivers and your jobs, response time, conversations you're having on those phone calls, getting them bought in to show up to interviews. And then once they are hired, your retention plan, have that all drawn out. And that is the keys to success in recruiting, retention, and employee management.
Right. I honestly think, when we circle back to this in 12 months and maybe recheck our 4 big trends in the home care agency world, I think that this trend of a labor shortage will not go away, but it will inspire a lot of creativity in the recruitment space, right? And we have some of the most creative and dedicated recruiters in the Place at Home system too. So I think that's going to be something you see really, really changed. And we're excited to be on the leading edge of that kind of thing. But speaking of leading edges, Dustin, speaking of bright and shiny things that are very interesting and could potentially move the needle here, we're seeing a lot of talk with a trend that concerns, I would say technology coming into an otherwise established market, right? How do you see a trend in home care going toward technology, right? Is there some big things available to you or things that you're keeping your eye on when it comes to technology kind of coming into the senior care space?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to name the platforms out there. I think the main piece of technology that you're seeing is still in the recruiting side of things, placement and all that. In terms of client care delivery, there's a lot of technology that goes through. I'll name our platform that we use, WellSky and previously known as ClearCare. They keep finding new innovative ways to deliver care through technology, but also where we need to find as an industry is the ability to maximize our potentials and keep our internal costs down. I think technology is really starting to go towards that. And what I mean by internal costs, when you look at a home care agencies, there's 3 major expenses. Your caregivers is number 1, and your number 2 is your admin staff, and number 3 is everything else, right? Everything else, advertising maybe be the 3rd, right? But the 2 major costs are your caregivers, what it costs you to deliver care, and your admin staff. And if we can cut down admin staff by way of technology, whether it's a better recruiting platform and onboarding platforms, paperwork platforms, billing, payroll, all those things, I think they're being developed. I don't think they're quite there yet to help our industry, but they are being developed. And then in addition to the delivery of care and management of care, we've invested as a brand in care insights through WellSky, right? And I don't know if Oscar's watching this or anybody from WellSky right now, but we take care insights very, very strongly, right? I love seeing the data, and what care insights does is it gives us more, I guess it's kind of like a warning system. It will put clients into a pool and measure them against other clients based on certain metrics like socioeconomic status, how many diagnoses do they have, weight, height, however, everything. What's their previous medical history? and it says, all right, these people's likelihood of going to the hospital is 80%. You know, they're in the red, right? Well, then we see someone in the red, yet the client lives alone. They only do 6 hours a week, right? That gives us the ability to go to that client, not as a sales, not to try to get more hours, but to educate the client and say, listen, you've been deemed high risk. You're doing 6 hours a week at $30 an hour. That's $180 a week. That's like $600 a month, right? Or $700 a month. We suggest you go to like 20, maybe someone here daily, right?
Yeah.
And I say 6 hours a week. A lot of our agencies don't take on 6 hour a week clients anymore. So I got to be careful there, but you need to increase. And then usually the pushback from the family, but well, that's a lot of added cost. And I hate that answer. I really do, because what's the added cost if your mom does fall? Not just money-wise, monetary-wise, but time, stress, death. Right. And you knew about this, and we educated you on this, and you chose not to because you wanted to save $1. That bothers me the most. Right. Yes, we're a business at the end of the day. So is healthcare, right? Healthcare is a business.
Yeah.
We need to get paid for the service fee, but we're also here to help you, right? And we're also here to keep eyes on your mom and dad. And it's our responsibility, once we see these measurables that you're high risk, to educate you on why you're high risk. And Care Insights has really, really helped us. Our hospitalization rates we're measuring right now to see, by utilizing those Care Insights, what our hospitalization rate is, what's our return to hospital rate is, right? Which can save money to Medicare, Medicaid, and insurance companies. They'll like that kind of stuff. And I think technology has helped us achieve that. But still, the tech piece that a lot of people are trying to figure out is the Uberification of caregiving.
Right.
And I think that is a very, very hard accomplishment, because it's such a personalized service. But I wouldn't be surprised, would not be surprised if there's platforms that come out there and it will shake things up a little bit. It'll worry people. There's a company, I'm not going to name who they were, but there was a company that tried to do that when Jared and I started, raised hundreds of millions of dollars. Didn't work out so hot. I'm not saying that isn't possible. I'm just saying it's going to be a very difficult accomplishment. So keep your eye on that, but I don't see that being a threat at this point in time to those agencies out there.
Well, and it might just be a little far off for the actual admin task of it, of replacing what we've talked about is so important so far on today's call, which is our caregiver, right? When that person is eliminated from their opportunity, right, that level of service completely changes. But I like how you know that the service should change with your other piece of technology as you continue to track care plans and monitor how we're actually serving our clients, and notice that some things need to be addressed in the care plan. We can be proactive. We can be a part of that family plan that says, hey, this is the reason we think we need to go to a certain hour a week, a certain change in care, because we can see it, we can point to it, right? To me, I think that's already happening. It's right now. And a way to give more opportunity for our caregivers to get in and make a difference in that client's life when their care is starting to change, right? But as far as the admin side of things, when we're talking about staff and all of that, I'm really excited to investigate some of those plans you mentioned here. We've got some things, cooking in our opportunities as well to see what can change there. But technology will always be something that we're looking at. And I think we'll have more opportunities. Again, when you do this in like another year, technology will have come a long way. And who knows, maybe you and I will just have two AI deep fakes of each other, just having this conversation as opposed to us, It could be that. But ultimately, I've really enjoyed kind of learning from you so far as your take on the home care industry, right? Where these trends are going, what to look for, and really kind of get folks excited, clear-eyed about some of the challenges that I have in our industry. But at the end of the day, it's worth it to be able to make that difference. And if folks are interested in the information you've heard today, Mr. or Mrs. LinkedIn viewer, I want to direct you to our website, right? That's a placeathomefranchise.com. where our blog section provides much of the material you heard today, as well as added content that's coming up every month where you can really stay in tune with the trends of what we're looking at here. And who knows, you're going to see a little bit more of me and Dustin and the rest of the A Place at Home crew should you keep taking your Tuesday lunch hour with us out here at A Place at Home. Dustin, I want to thank you, man. Thanks for being here this afternoon.
Hey, thanks for having me out here. And yeah, look forward to it. Look forward to another strong year of home care.
Mm-hmm. Strong year. It's going to be great.
Boom.
Absolutely. And I tell you what, speaking of strong years of home care, we want to really talk to some of those folks who are thinking about it, right? Is this the time to come back to the table of entrepreneurship and select senior care as the place you want to go, right? Tune in next week for everything you need to know about that, where I speak with our president and co-founder, Jared Evanich, of what to expect when starting a home care business. It's going to be a lot of fun. Dustin, you better fact check me on that one. Lurk in the background, you know.
Oh, how to start one?
Oh, yeah. It's going to be great. But
all right.
Right on. There we go.
All right. I'll see you guys next week. I'll be in the comments.
All right. Just blow it up.
Wrong.
Nah, way off.
Right.
Don't listen to the salesman. It'll be great.
You what? What is that? Throw it out.
Never heard of it. You know?
All you need is a passion, a wallet, and a pen. You're fine.
There we go. Yeah.
Maybe an Excel spreadsheet.
Maybe. Depends. All right, Dustin, take it easy for the rest of the day, and thanks everyone for joining the call.
Thanks. Talk to you later.
All right, later.